It's the Jim Fannin Show. We've come to take your mind.
Am I still on? Show. The real Andy Lee show is Andy Lee. She is my guest today. We're going to hit the Anti-Hate Network. Buckle up and welcome aboard. I'm starting to get cranked about my opens again. It gets my blood racing. That's always good. And then you have a hot guest on with you who's appropriately dressed. My goodness, woman, how are you? You look terrific. Unmute yourself, please.
Hey, hi, Jim. It's good to be here. Nice to see you.
Well, it's a weird world how you get introduced to people. You know, I found you on Twitter. I don't know how or why, but like minds seem to attract these days, and you're active. And then you're canceled. I did remember the Jordan Peterson incident. I didn't know who Andy Lee was when he was speaking of for it or against it. I can't even remember what that was now. You can remind us later. And then, we just basically got to know each other last time, spent an hour with you just talking about you. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your personality. So thank you for the time, number one. How are you feeling? Did I see that you were in an accident recently?
I was in an accident.
What happened? What? Seriously?
Well, I live alone now, so I'm moving into my new house, and I'm moving furniture, and I fell down the stairs carrying some furniture. So I gave myself a pretty good concussion, but I'm all right now. I'm recovering. It's going to take a little while, but I definitely feel better than I did. So yeah, hazards of living alone, right? The things they don't tell you about divorce. So that's one of them. I always say, there's a very special place in hell reserved for women who leave their husbands and are doomed to put together furniture by themselves for the rest of their lives. So that's the very special hell that I've been in for the last couple of months.
Well, you haven't lost your sense of humor, so I give you that. I always appreciate that in anyone, forget a woman. But so I'm glad you're feeling better, and I don't know why I was drawn to it, but you've got some haters online. I mean, I do too, but they don't. The bigger you get, the more they come after you. And we were just talking off air. That Zoom recording will be good outtakes for another channel, maybe. But we were talking about the fact that this was never your thing. You didn't want to be doing this, and that this kind of you get stressed out by doing these interviews. And you're a broadcaster now. You do was it a live show? Yeah, you're on AM radio, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not like a lot of people. I didn't set out to do this. This was never really my intention. I fell into it. My mother died during lockdowns during the pandemic. I didn't get to say bye. I got very, very angry with the government, started researching, writing, things like that, to sort of fill that void. And I think a lot of people got more politically active during the pandemic for various reasons. So I was one of those people. And then, of course, I met Jay Hill, Stephen Harper's former House leader, asked me to run in the general election. And I just sort of got into politics from there, and it just steamrolled. So, yeah, it's a very still uncomfortable and stressful place for me to be, because I never set out to do this. I was never like, I want to be, I want to have a big social media account. A lot of times, yeah, when you talk about, the people coming after me and things like that. It's, sometimes I miss my little old account, my 8,000 person accounts, where I could just sort of say what I want, and had a lot of freedom. I have to be a lot more careful now what I say and how I put things forward and things like that, and use it responsibly. So I'm trying to be more cognizant of that, and to do that right. So yeah, but anyways, interesting. It's a funny world, social media. I was a housewife, right? So just looked after my two kids, and then now I'm on your show, and I'm in the news, and I'm on AM radio, and all these wild things. So you never know where you're going to end up, right? So
how's your head? How you feeling mentally?
all right, it's all right. It's still
I mean,
pretty
Twitter
sore.
is a cesspool. All social media. I mean, I've backed away from Facebook because I'm so shadow banned on Facebook. My reach goes nowhere with 5,000, 8,000 followers or whatever I have. It's not that big an account because my Jim Fannin show is not that big. But I just backed away from it because I could see that they were throttling me. I'm not so throttled on Twitter these days. You probably feel the effects of that, but it's hard to turn the comments off. I respect you when I tell you offline, you're a good woman, I encourage you. It feels good. You're good at your job. You have a genuineness about, is that even a word? You're genuine, and people get that, and I get where your heart is. So, but like, how's your mental health? How does it take its toll? Because if the good things lift you up, then the bad things have to tear you down. You can't have one without the other. And the bad things, I mean, they say the stupidest things, which we should be able to dismiss, but it's so difficult. I got them bringing up my dead mother and how they knew her because they were in cancer treatments, met her once at the end of her life, and said, well, she was embarrassed and worried about your mental health. So how do you handle it? How is your mental health? How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, it's like I said, it's a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And like I said, I didn't fall into this naturally. So I find all this stuff stressful. And, it is really hard because I do this on my own time and my own money. I've never been paid for doing this. And I spend a lot of money on flights and things like that. So, it is really hard when people come out and say, oh, she's just a grifter who's making a buck off of this and trying to make a name for herself and things like that. It is really hurtful. I'm like, no, I'm actually just somebody who got really, really concerned about the state of our country and decided that I could take action. And, now I've got some reasonable influence to be able to take action and make a difference, right? So yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. You have to see all this stuff. I'm notorious. I've never blocked anybody on social media or anything like that. I sort of let all this stuff come in. I'm a sort of a free speech absolutist in that way. I will report things that I think are over the top. If they're threatening or extremely racist or things like that, I do report those accounts. But aside from that, I leave myself open to critique. I'm a free speech absolutist that way. I do take all those critiques in and look at them. And, occasionally I change my position too. And it's okay to reassess your position based on new information. And that's why I do that, right? So I do sort of leave myself out there.
We grow up. Our life experience changes how we look at things. And, I was a lefty for a long time. In 93, I ran my first election. I ran, 7 or 8 times, including against Elizabeth May for leadership in 06. Like, I was deep. I was on provincial executive. I was deep in it. And the left kind of went mad, and I kind of came towards the center. And then I thought Trump was fucking hilarious, like a pure stand-up comedian. And then I started agreeing with his positions on China, on the wall, on immigration, on guns, on abortion. I'm like, oh my God. I can't believe I have to defend Donald Trump because they take everything he said out of context. I was getting into this off the air a little bit, but I didn't make my point. It's like, I look at these ideologues, these lefties, that hate Trump with such a passion. And Joe Biden's done much worse and said much worse things than Trump will ever say about minorities. And yet they're calling him the Gestapo and a Nazi and blah, blah, blah. I don't get it. But I came a long way from a lefty over to the center. And now I'm on the right. And now the PPC won't even have me because I don't know. They turned me down for candidacy the last federal election. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
It almost,
Oh my goodness.
it hurt, man. It hurt because I've been a candidate like 10 times, and I'm a damn good candidate. Like, I can argue both sides, steel man both positions in politics, because I was a lefty, and I know the whole left's platform, but they went nuts. And yeah, I mean, Max told me off air, he said, you know, I think you'll be okay. Like, don't worry about it. But he had no say in picking the candidates, and they didn't accept
The EDA turned you around.
I don't know whoever was running. I think I know
Usually
who it is.
it's your electoral district association that.
No. The head office was in charge of screening all the candidates.
Oh,
I think once
okay.
they scrubbed my social media, they went, no, not this guy.
Yeah, I had to submit all mine too. That was a little bit of an uncomfortable moment. I was like, "You guys are going to go through my social media, okay?" You know what skeletons are in my closet? We all have them, right? We've all said stupid things on social media, unfortunately.
Mine are all public.
we
They're
all
all
have
still out
these
there.
So, but yeah, I'm pretty stunned that they turned you down. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I have a pretty good relationship, I think, with the People's Party of Canada. I've met Max. We've disagreed before very openly, but we can also get along and see eye to eye on some things as well. So, yeah, interesting party, interesting time politically for sure. Lots going on right now.
Yeah,
Right?
and as we touch on that, I know that you know John Kay, or have interacted with him. I got him next week and Max the week after, so you're in good company for the next few weeks. Anyways, tell me about John Kay. What up? The dude is dry and got a razor sharp wit. I don't know what you know about him. I've interviewed him once, and he was brilliant. He was entertaining as hell. So
I mean, he's going to be a lot more funny than I am. That's for sure. I don't know a lot about him.
Oh, okay.
We sort of joined forces to deconstruct that Ottawa Orson hoax. That was sort of how I think we got to know each other. So I was the first person to comment on that post on Jim Elves when he was saying, oh my gosh, there was this, I'll look into this, right? And I was like, hold on here. Like, you're telling me that somebody tried to, commit a mass murder by arson in Ottawa, and this is the first that the Ottawa arson unit's heard of it? Like, give me a break here. What's going on? And so, so John Kay started threading it out, and then I started adding in all the nonsense, right? Like, I was like, and then, a good Samaritan put the fire out and disappeared into the night without a trace, right? Because that was the story. And so that was how we sort of, I think, got to know each other and appreciated, humor and things, but also the absurdness of the reporting that was going on. It was sort of like, how could it be that, we were the only two people who saw through this story immediately? So that was sort of how we got to know each other. Yeah, I mean, he's hilarious. I don't know a lot about his background, his personal life and things like that, but definitely very, very, exactly razor sharp guy, sharp wit, sharp mind. A lot of fun, good articles. Takes the woke to task, not afraid to do that. He goes a little bit further than I would ever go. I'm a little bit more cautious about what I put out there. I'm a little bit more wary of the backlash I might get for some of the posts, right? So he's a bit edgier than I am, but definitely a great guy, very much appreciated, and contributes a lot, I think.
Well, I appreciate you, and I'll tell you why, and this is how you know, well, you don't know, but very little do we get acknowledged for your influence on people. And often when I'm tweeting my nonsense, my pure, unadulterated anger and rage, unfiltered, and just mocking and whatever, I'm like, some people that I respect have to see this. And I could just see you going, oh, you said that. Or maybe you're saying, go get him, way to go, boy. I wish I could say it, because you know what? We do self-censor as much as we say we don't. And I am a free speech absolutist. And I think I'm a rare person, man or woman. I don't find many people saying, yeah, I'm a free speech absolutist. Say whatever you want, including fire in a crowded theater. But I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences. Or if you get someone killed with your speech, yeah, there's a law for that already. We don't need hate speech laws. We don't need censorship. The censorship is how you drive people underground. If you're going to be a radical extremist, I want you to say it all over the place so we know who you are, So I find it uncommon to be identified with someone like yourself that goes, yeah, I'm a free speech absolutist for sure. 100%. No exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard place to go, like I said, because yeah, I mean, I have to put up with, with that comes some backlash, right? And people exercising their right to free speech against me, and maybe not in the nicest manner. But like I said, I do accept all of that, and catalog it and sort through it. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about hate speech laws today. Actually, that's sort of what I wanted to touch on, and what's going on. Internet censorship, things like that. The groups that are behind it, the pollsters that are behind it, the funding that's behind it, things like that. That's sort of what I specialize in. So, I did want to talk about the Canadian Anti-Hate Network a little bit today. There's some other groups. There's a Digital Citizens Initiative. There's a Canadian Race Relations Foundation. So
we're on the Canadian Anti-Hate Network here.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess under, holy shit, it's got 40,000 followers?
They got me
Damn.
blocked, so I can't see them anymore.
Okay, well, you're seeing, I'm sharing the screen.
They're not free speech absolutists.
I guess not. You can see, I'm sharing with you right now. You can see me scrolling their Twitter page, right? Yes, you can see?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so 40,000 followers. All right, so as we scroll through their tweets here, just tell us about these people.
Well, I mean, I started looking into them actually a long time ago. It was in summer 2019, before the federal election, before I ran in the federal election, because I was a candidate. I was trying to, learn a lot about the groups, funding, things like that. And so I came across them. So it's a really, really interesting group. I mean, this group didn't exist before the Trudeau government. They didn't exist before 2018.
Oh, shit.
So this is a group that was created by funding from the Ministry of Heritage. And at that time, Stephen Guilbeault was in charge of it. And this is the same time that Stephen Guilbeault was starting to introduce censorship bill C-10.
All right.
So I was immediately suspicious. I was like, where did this group come from? What happened? So, I mean, there's a lot of funding behind these sort of initiatives.
And this is pure activism. This is a political, is what they call, this is Canadian Antifa right here. Funded by the government.
I call them Contifa. So
they tried to cancel me for that word. That is funny.
Well, it's their short form. I should probably expand on that. So their short form is CAHN, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So I call them Contifa.
Contifa, right? I got it.
So anyway, so this group was made specifically by the Ministry of Heritage right around the time that they started to put out internet censorship bills. And they immediately started to lobby on behalf of these internet hate bills and Bill C-10 for Stephen Guilbeault. So what they do is, they team up with pollsters. One of the polls that they did, they teamed up with Frankie Graves from Echoes. Now, we know that Echoes is not an unbiased firm. I'm sure you guys have all seen Frankie Graves going off. He's blocked me. All the pollsters have blocked me except for one. That's Philippe Fournier did not block me. He actually did block me, but I pointed it out and then he unblocked me. So I thought that was pretty cool of him to do that. Because I was like, Philippe, you pulled me in the last federal election. What's up, man? And he actually unblocked me. So that was pretty cool of him. But anyways, so I was really, really alarmed because what I saw is that the Canadian Anti-Hate Network was teaming up with Echoes. And so Echoes is run by Frank Graves. Again, if you've ever seen Frank Graves rant about conservatives, it's pretty appalling. He said that he was straight out up to get at Pierre Poilievre. I always said that Frankie Graves needs a breathalyzer on his phone. He shouldn't be able to use it if he's been drinking. So, awesome. But anyways, so basically, Frankie Graves before has said, basically, conservatives, that's the home of xenophobic and racist views, right? That's their home party. So it's not an impartial poll. So what they did, so they get together, they ran this poll, and then they asked if, Canadians wanted and needed to be saved from themselves, from online hate. And of course, majority of respondents, I think it was 73% of the respondents said, yes, online hate is an issue. We need to harness it. And so it was actually after that poll was conducted that the changes were made by Stephen Guilbeault to Bill C-10 that allowed user content to be, and this was the big issue with this bill, right? The censorship bill, is that it would allow user content. So say me and you would be subjected to the same rules that broadcasters would be, right? And so this is a huge problem with the bill. And so I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, what is this? This is basically just an internet censorship lobby, right? The federal government gives you money. You team up with pollsters. You make polls that say what the Liberal government wants to hear. Our MSM publishes it. And then, you get more money to do more of the same thing. And so, it's a really, really insidious thing. And like I said, they're not exclusive in this. There's a lot of these groups doing this. I think initially they were started by a grant. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's called the Anti-Racist Program or something like that, right? That's what it's called. But it was started with $8.5 billion in funding.
No.
Okay. 8.5 billion.
No, it can't
That's
be
the
billion.
number I've got printed out here.
In Canada, not billion, it can't be.
It's right here, $8.5 billion.
There's so much slush money going around. It's unbelievable. When we find out what Trudeau's worth, we're going to be shocked, because the mainstream media is saying he's worth 10 million. His mother's worth 10 million. They've been saying 10 million for 10 years. He hasn't grown since 2008, his net worth. You know what? When they find out he's worth 2 billion, people are going to go, what the fuck? How did this kid get all this money? There's so much money in politics. It's unbelievable. And tell me this. Is there ever going to come a time when you take too many black pills and you're completely hopeless and you go, fuck it, I'm done. I can't affect change. This is not worth my stress and my mental health and my financial security. I'm out. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
good. Glad to hear it.
I mean, yeah.
We'll use you for all you're worth while you're here, but if you disappear and go back into life and fall in love and just go move to an island somewhere, I will not be. I'll be disappointed, but I get it. You know what I mean? Because it's rough out here, man.
It is a bit rough out here, yeah. But I mean, it's these initiatives that are making it rough. So I mean, this isn't all that they do, right? This is a part of what they do, and it's a really, really interesting group. The Fifth Estate, I believe, CBC starred Kurt Phillips, so he's one of the leaders of the group. He said that he was an Antifa informant. He put that up. Now his face was supposed to be blurred out, but CBC, of course, because CBC messes up all the time, they didn't black his face out, so he was identified, right, as being part of this group. They were like, and he's a school teacher. Now here's an interesting thing.
Hard to believe we have school teachers that are Antifa members. They're indoctrinating our poor children and covering their faces with cloth diapers.
Well, here's the neat thing. So part of their mandate was to create, part of their initial mandate, and they're not just funded by the federal government, they're well funded by BMO. BMO put $1 million towards 3 different of these racism groups, and Anti-Hate Network was one of them. BMO also manages Trudeau's Blind Trust, by the way. So when we get that $2 billion or whatever it's going to be coming from BMO. So part of their initiative and part of this funding from BMO was to create educational materials, right? And so Blacklock's reporter did a fantastic story. So Anti-Hate Network has come out with their educational materials. I was extremely leery when I heard this. I was like, well, what are these educational materials going to say? And well, I mean, right in this toolkit, this is the Anti-Hate's toolkit for schools. Right in it, it says that conservatism is, wide open to racist interference and influence. I mean, it doesn't say anything about lefties, right?
Wow.
So I mean, you can imagine. So this is what's going to be going into our schools, right? An anti-racism toolkit that says that conservatives are racist, right?
Wow.
So I mean, this is the literal indoctrination of our children, federally funded by liberals who are influenced by people like Antifa, right? I have a huge issue with this. It's a big problem.
I gotta stop
They're
having
creating
people
a
like you
whole
on the show.
They're creating a whole new, generation of young voters who will hate conservatives, right? I mean, can you imagine this toolkit gets distributed to our kids? I mean, just imagine it. Or imagine, let's look at the flip side. Let's say conservatives were in power. we funded anti-hate groups who worked with
But
right
this is the
right
thing
wing
about
culture.
conservatives. This is what I don't get. They won't play dirty. They won't smear. Look at what's happening with Herschel Walker now. They don't do political assassination. They don't get down in the mud with the lefties. You think they don't spy. They don't use the FBI and the DOJ for their personal police force. The conservatives don't operate this way. And you'd think, especially after now, they'd say, fuck it, when we get in there, we're fucking going to town. We're going to impeach. We're going to use the DOJ to do blind raids on everyone. We're going to take everyone down. And there's nothing you can fucking do about it. You started it and we'll finish it. Like, conservatives don't play that way, I find, anyways. And I'm a new kind of a righty. So it's, it's strange that you say this is their motive. And this is, I'm more concerned with them talking sex to my kids. I don't care if they want to get into their head with political ideology, but let them fucking grow up. Let them have a natural puberty. Stop telling them they can be a different sex and putting them on hormone blockers before puberty. I was like, this was what makes me mental. The political indoctrination I can deal with. The pendulum swings back. You're right. Conservatives come into power. Maybe they rip that shit out of there. This critical race theory and this whole, the RCMP's racist. Every institution's racist. No, we're not. We're more tolerant than we've ever been. Take the W. We're not always losers. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've made a lot of leaps and bounds in our country, right? It's not that there's not issues and that those issues don't exist. I can go into that a little bit more later. I can talk about hate crime statistics and things like that. It's something that I've really, really studied. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're more tolerant. That's not to say that there's not issues. And I think that we all have, some concerns with gender ideology. I was really disappointed because when I heard about puberty blockers initially, I was really excited about them initially because I thought maybe this is a panacea. Maybe this will work and it will prevent children from getting surgeries that they might regret later. That was my initial thought, is that this could really be a good thing. But we didn't know much about them at that time. And now we know a lot about them, a lot more about them, and that they definitely can cause long-term harm and things like that.
Right where you're there, Andy.
They're not without their own side effects. So it was really, really unfortunate. Like I said, I was excited and I was like, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we can delay these children and give them a chance to make an educated decision before they do something drastic.
What else have you flipped on?
Well, I mean, I flip all the time based on new information.
Sure, but
right?
what's another major issue that you went, nah, not so. I thought it was good in the beginning, and now not so much.
Probably vaccines. I mean, I wasn't always I guess I'm an anti-vaxxer now. I was never really a huge activist. I was always against passports and mandatory vaccines, but I had my vaccinations. I was living my life, but then I realized, what was going on was tremendously wrong, and the discrimination that was going on was tremendously wrong. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily flipped, but I got much, much, much more involved where I might not have been involved before. I was relatively quiet. A lot of people came out about vaccines. I always said bodily autonomy, I think, is key. I said that back in the, during the election and things like that even. Talked a lot about bodily autonomy. A lot of people quizzed me about abortion rights and things like that. And I said I would always stand for bodily autonomy. So I sort of had to put my money where my mouth is and really throw a lot of my weight behind the people who felt very strongly that, they have a right to not get vaccinated. And I felt that they deserved my support, even though I had chosen a different path, right? I had chosen a different, medical path for myself. I had to respect those rights and really, really throw all my weight behind them and help them fight for that cause. And it's a cause that I really, really believe in now. So, initially when vaccines came along, I thought, okay, this is going to be our way out. This is going to be it, right? We're going to get out of this. We're going to be back to normal in 6 months. This is all going to be over. And that didn't happen, right? And I was like, no, something's gone wrong here. I'm going to flip my position. I'm not for this anymore. This is not the way out. We have to look for different methods, right? So that's probably another major thing that I flipped on. And like I said, I think it's okay to, if you look at Rupa Subramania, a lot of people came out at her because she was initially very pro-vaccine as well. And she did a lot of tremendous work during the Freedom Convoy and a lot of work thereafter. And a lot of people came out and said, well, you've totally flipped. And, I'm like, well, it's okay to change your position based on new information, right? I did it. Like I said, I was never for mandatory vaccination. When all that talk started coming up, I was appalled by it, right? I was always I was always disgusted by that and all the rhetoric that was being directed against people who didn't want the vaccine. I never was on board with that, but I wouldn't have taken anywhere near as strong of a stance as I did, probably, if things had gone back to normal. So, I had to get on board with that. So it's probably something else that people could say I flip-flopped on.
Or like you said, it's an organic learning process, right? So as you get deeper into the issue, you go, hey, well, I'm going to get more active and I'm going to go in this direction with it. So, well, I give you a lot of credit. I don't want to look like a simp and kiss your ass all the way through the show, but I think it's important that people get acknowledged. And you're effective. I know it takes a toll, and so thank you for what you're doing. And, you're one of my go-tos now when I want to know what's going on, and you seem to be on the leading edge of some of this new information. Like you broke the last big story about the government running around trying to justify the Emergency Act. That was you, right, that dug that up?
That was Rupa. So, but I did have my part in it. I mean,
Right,
I did
okay.
debunk a lot of that stuff. I debunked the arson. I debunked the guns found.
Right.
I was at the press conferences. I debunked the Marco Mendocino talking about the rapes. That was from a social media post that went viral. I contacted Ottawa Police. Ottawa Police said that they were aware of the post, but they had not received any sort of complaints related to sexual assault.
Wow, a lot of this stuff went over my head. I was so consumed with trying to survive in Dominican Republic.
So,
I wasn't
the
paying
last big
attention.
story I did break a big story. You'll never hear this though. So the Chinese police stations, we've heard about the Chinese police stations
3
in
of them
Canada.
in Toronto.
So that was
Wow.
actually a report that I dug up. I dug it up September 17th. I posted that report. And so that's the big thing to do, to jour right now. And everybody's talking about it. I was watching the committee meeting last night, Hong Kong Watch. Co-founder was testifying on it and things like that. So that was actually, that report just came out of nowhere. But it was me that found it, and I posted it on the 17th. I'm glad that MSM picked it up and ran with it because it deserves a lot of attention.
It does, yeah.
It would be nice if occasionally
To give you some
maybe
credit.
somebody would say, this report was found by Andrea Lee. That might be nice, but
It's not really
I'm not
about that, though.
expecting
As
that
long as they're
anytime
talking
soon
about
from
it,
them.
it's not about the ego. But I hear you. It would be nice if they gave you credit because you don't get anything else for it. It's not like you have a paycheck coming in. You're not funded by the state, i.e. all the other media that qualifies for it. Of course, conservative media and alternative media doesn't qualify for federal funding. It's just the favorites. And man, are they singing Trudeau's songbook or what? Like, I mean, it's so damn obvious that these people like Rachel Gilmore and you can't even, I'm just starting with her because, well, she's kind of cute in a dangerous kind of way, and just ideologically possessed. And you think that the normal person can't go, there's got to be a relationship between who gets funded, who gets a subsidy, a partial subsidy from the government, and who doesn't, and how they report on the politicians of the day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Rachel, I've come at her a couple of times. I've also asked people to be kind to her because I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. I hope that she finds her path. She's sort of like a femme fatale, right? And she's not stupid. I did come out with her for collaborating with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network and openly retweeting Antifa and things like that. I think that's really, really inappropriate. And I did point out some of the things that Canadian Anti-Hate Network was doing. And, if she wants to sort of, hitch herself to that post, she's going to sink with that ship, and that ship is going to sink. A lot of people, maybe not in 2019 when I started looking into them, but a lot of people are waking up now to what they're doing and how dangerous what they're doing is. And it is very dangerous, right? They're supposed to be finding hate. They're stirring it up is what they're doing. They're plugged by all of our establishment media. They're supposed to be hate experts, and they're creating a lot of hate against conservatives.
And they create racism too. They tell us that we're racist, and we've always been racist too. But so many of these federally funded programs, and in the States as well, these affirmative action type things. When you see someone that's an affirmative action hire and they're horrible at their job, it creates racism because we go, well, the only reason they have the job is because they're transsexual, black, in a wheelchair or something. The intersectionality goes a long way. And then they're idiots on top of it. And then I think that creates hate where it doesn't exist. It creates the racism because we're going, how did this guy get the job? Because he's black or because he's whatever, because of his intersectionality. And I think that, like I said, the government spends more time in sting operations. They did this in Montreal back in the 70s or whatever. They posed as skinheads. So eventually they trolled a bunch of people in with all this money and beer and going and buying drugs and partying with these guys. They created the Nazis that they were trying. It's like a make work project. Unbelievable how corrupt our government is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much more, rampant and prevalent in the United States, those sort of things. I don't think that we're over the cliff yet. But I do think that, and we've seen this with Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, if you keep, beating people and telling them that they're bad and they're racist, you do stir up a lot of anger, right? And it is counterproductive to the cause, and you can cause people to lash out and things like that. So, that's an example of, what I would say irresponsible rhetoric, right? That's the sort of thing that I'm trying to stay away from now. So, yeah, I mean, along those lines, Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So they're really interesting. So I did some digging. I do a lot of, like I said, I was digging into China. I found that report on the Chinese police stations. I posted it. I also posted a report on the Uyghur genocide, the UN report in Xinjiang. So after I posted that, it was kind of weird. There was a group that came after me, and it was a very large group. It's called the Shao Collective, and you can find them online. That's QIAO Collective. And it's a huge account. It's almost as big as mine. And they started coming after me and saying that the report was false and that there was no human rights abuses in China, et cetera, et cetera. And they were really, really hounding me. And I was like, who is this pro-Beijing group, right? And where did they come from? So I started researching them. And I thought that they were going to lead to, maybe the United States or something like that. But it was really, really interesting. They led to a media group in Canada. So they collaborate with a group called the Canada Files. I touched on this with Marc Patrone the other day. So the Canada Files is a left-wing media organization. You can find them on Twitter if you like and pull them up. We can look at some of their stuff. So the Canada Files is run by somebody called Aidan Jonah. And they do conferences, video conferences. They actually did a webinar together. The Canada Files hosted a webinar on the Freedom Convoy and sort of tried to deconstruct that. So what they do is pretty dangerous. They talk to Russian state media. They talk to Iran apologists, Beijing apologists, other groups, Russian apologists, things like that. They post all this stuff up. The whole Laith Marouf scandal, which Jonathan Kay uncovered, right? That was his anti-Semitic rants. And Laith Marouf, of course, was funded, also by the Ministry of Heritage quite well. And so, that's been sort of the story.
I like when John Kay starts his take with, as a Jew.
Yes. So they have a whole article that's apologized on their website for Laith Marouf.
Why don't you have any Canada Files? Why aren't you tagging them? You're just screenshotting them. Aren't they on Twitter?
I've tagged them before and I've retweeted them. So they're aware that I'm after them.
I'm looking for them. I can't click on them.
So they apologized for Laith Marouf. They said, he's just not a bad guy. He's misunderstood. He's just a Palestinian activist, right? Totally not true. So this is the sort of stuff that they put up. But then I was even more shocked because I found an article where they collaborated with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So I'm like, hold up here. The stuff that you guys are putting out is awful. You're denying human rights abuses in Cuba. You're saying that the Iran protests are backed by Donald Trump. Okay, you're saying that Laith Marouf
Laughable. Oh
is
my
a good
God.
guy, and the Zionists are just out to get him. And then we've got our federally funded Canadian Anti-Hate Network collaborating with these goofballs.
Wow.
Like, give me a break. This is taxpayer dollars, right? Give me a friggin' break. These are the bad guys that Canadian Anti-Hate Network is supposed to be finding. These are the guys. Okay, this is the network. These are the bad guys. Okay, these are the propagandists. And Canadian Anti-Hate Network, instead of outing them, is collaborating with them. This is super, right?
Wow. Yeah, well, I'm just looking through the clips now. We're off camera, but looking through this one that Rachel Gilmore, that you said, hey, Rachel, your pals at the Anti-Hate Network, and that's a picture of this guy. Unbelievable.
Well, because she just went to a big conference with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
Oh, jeez.
I think it was in Germany or something. So I'm like, you guys are supposed to be the experts, and you're posting stuff in this radical left-wing hate rag, right? Like, I mean, and you guys never picked up on this. And I mean, even more than that. So we know that the Iran protests are going on. I've got a huge love for the people of Iran. I've marched with the families of PS 752. I've spoken to them. I've interviewed them. I'm really, really close with that community, and I've tried to do my best to help represent their cause and to use my voice to amplify their cause. I talk to people who are in Iran right now doing the protests. We are in a huge chat. We chat every night. And so Iran, the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, they have a news network called Fars News. Okay, so it's a propaganda network. They've denied all the protests that have been going on, right? They put out these fake videos showing empty parking lots, being like, no, there's nothing up in Tehran right now. It's all nonsense, right? It's just lies. And so the contributor, the main editor, Ada Jonah of he's the editor-in-chief of the Canada Files. He contributes to Fars News, okay? The IRGC-controlled network. He's writing for
Anti-imperialist journalism challenging the Canadian Empire. What the F?
Yeah, I know. It's wild, isn't it?
Ottawa cancels funding for anti-racist conferences under pressure from Zionist lobby. What is fucking joke?
Throw some of the stuff up there if you can.
Oh, it's up. It's up right now. I'm on the Canada Files.
Oh, is it? Okay, so I'm off? Okay.
Oh, no, yeah, I can share it with you. Yeah, I should have shared it with you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay as long as it's up on the screen.
It's up, yeah. We're off camera. I'm cruising. I'm getting deeper and deeper into the cesspool here.
It's totally a cesspool. It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah,
it makes you fucking black-pilled. It makes you hopeless. It makes you feel like you'll never fucking beat these. And you said it, goofballs. I don't use the word goof very often because
how am I going to do it when they have $8.5 billion in funding behind them to do this kind of crap?
Imagine the slush fund going around for guys like William Ging Wee Deer.
Okay, so William Deer here's the fun part. So he's an author. He's an award-winning author, actually. He wrote a couple of books, but he's been starred on CBC. Of course, CBC would give him a platform, right? I wonder if CBC would give him a platform now, knowing that he loves Laith Marouf and knowing that he's denied that there's a genocide going on in China and that the Uyghur population, he says the Uyghurs are just fine and that the UN report is false. It's created by the United States. United States narratives have pushed weasel words, and skewed the perceptions of what's going on in China. I wonder if CBC would like to have William Deer on now.
I'm willing. It would just be like CBC to give him a show. Like that's
the kind of person they would give a show.
They'll make him Sunday morning, like give him a Sunday morning church show or some shit.
It's
totally the Antifa hour.
Yeah, and so these guys, they've come out at the person who organized that massive rally, that 50,000 person rally. One of the people who helped organize it is a good somebody that I talked to online, Kavesh Rose. And so he's an amazing, analyst at the McDonald Laurier Institute. So they've come out swinging directly at Kaveh on several occasions, and the McDonald Laurier Institute. And the McDonald Laurier, Kaveh, what he mostly does is fight against the Iran lobby, right? That's sort of his mission in life. That's his purpose. That's what he does. And he helped organize this rally that was going on in Toronto last weekend that had 50,000 people show up. And so these guys are coming out swinging at him. So I'm just like, these are not the good guys, right? Canadian Anti-Hate Network shouldn't be touching this media outlet with a 10-foot pole. I'm sorry. And they certainly shouldn't be doing it with my tax dollars. I mean, the article that they wrote in there was so stupid. It talked all about how, let me find it on my phone. Just give me a second and I'll find it, okay?
We
It was all about how Alberta was racist, of course.
Yeah, we got a lot of information here to cruise through just on that. Well, I searched you and replaced anti-hate with Canada Files, and boy, is it a cesspool.
It is. It's totally a cesspool.
Vendetta says you're right over the target. I like that. Yeah, this is, it's become fashionable all of a sudden to speak out against Iran. What happened? What is Saudi Arabia next? Are we going to start, speaking about the countries that throw gays off buildings? Like, we say we're a feminist society and we stand for democracy around the world, and it took them till 2022 to go, hey, yeah, the women of Iran and this burqa thing is like kind of, we should be talking about it. Like, the mainstream media is finally just dipping their toe into this.
Yeah, they're finally getting into it. Like I said, I've marched with these people before, right? So, I mean, this is nothing new. It was good to see our politicians have always spoken. Like this event for PS 752, this one got some notoriety because Christopher Freelance spoke. We've had politicians speaking at these for, since basically the plane went down. So it's nothing new, and like I said, I've marched with them. It was unfortunate they wanted me to go out and speak at that large rally, but I couldn't swing the plane ticket to get out there. I couldn't afford it, right? I've been flying a lot. So I was just like, I'm so sorry, but I can't make it. But I'll try to make there's a rally coming up this weekend that I'm going to try to make. And I might speak at that. So yeah, I mean, this has always been there and it's nothing new. This one I think has broader appeal because there was massive protests going on last year in Iran that I covered as well over water. They had a massive water shortage. So the same things happened, right? It's cyclical. This is nothing new. They do have these massive, months and months long protests. It's not unusual, but it's really, really good to see it finally getting some mainstream coverage, right?
Have you ever thought of crowdfunding? Have you ever thought, I know it's like I never see you ask for money. I don't get it. I don't ask for it very often either, but the links are in my show description. I've had a few donations from Twitter that people are just like, I had some guy from the UK that sent me 75 pounds twice and said, if you do a show on how Justin Trudeau got elected, I'd be interested in that. He wasn't even Canadian, but he cared enough about what was going on. So, what would make your life easier? Well, if you could get around and at least have a per diem or something to get to these places, that'd be good. Like, have you ever thought about crowdsourcing and saying, hey, listen, I'm putting myself out here, I could use I think you would get at least a few people that would back you or put you on a plane and when you needed to be on one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's crossed my mind. Like I'm going to have to try to make either through advertising revenue was what I was hoping through my YouTube channel. Or I'm trying to start up my own show as well. And maybe I might ask people just if they'll give me $1 a month, $12 a year, something like that will help, right? I know people have been very, very generous and offered to contribute. I think that my largest contribution somebody tried to give me was $5,000. They tried to give me $5,000 for what I've done. So I have no doubt that people would help support me, and I'm probably going to get to that point soon because, like I said, I'm spending a lot of money. I was supposed to be in Washington this weekend, coming up, speaking for WikiLeaks on behalf of Julian Assange.
Wow!
But I can't afford it.
Get down there, girl. You got it. You're too proud.
I can't afford it.
You're too proud. You're too proud. You can make one phone call right now and say, so-and-so, put me up Fly me down. I'm your guy. You know, I should be there. It'll work itself out later.
Yeah. So WikiLeaks is having this huge rally in DC. They're going to form a chain around legislature buildings, a human chain. And so they asked me to come speak at this rally on behalf of Canadians. But I can't swing getting down there, right?
We need some more WikiLeaks. We need Epstein's black book. We need the graft that all the doctors, all the Ministry of Health have taken from Pfizer and the other companies. We need some more drops from WikiLeaks.
I found this quote from the article the Anti-Hate Network wrote with the Canada Files. So here it is.
Okay.
Wexit, so that's the Western separatist movement. Wexit is appealing to the white power movement with a strong stance against immigration and extremely social conservative values, because they see this as the next best thing to a pure white ethno-state.
For crying out loud. I'm so tired of hearing how white people are the problem. Listen, white people are the least racist people on the planet now. For crying out loud.
So I ran for the Mavericks, right? So that's kind of like, we're not a separatist party, but we're like, it's not off the table.
Right.
And so, I mean, the person that I wanted to lead the party was a good friend of mine, and he went down to Ottawa and stuff. So that's Tariq Al-Nega. Wonderful individual, came here from Dubai, went to the Calgary Stampede once, and fell in love with Alberta, packed up his stuff, moved from the Middle East, and started a ranch.
What? That's awesome.
Right? I call him my brother, and he calls me his sister, right? So we ran together in the election. So I'm like, when I hear that the Wexit movement is fueled by people who want a white ethno-state, I just have to laugh, because I think of that story, and I think of how incredible it was of what he did. I mean, imagine he just saw the Stampede once, and he was like, I'm in love. I'm moving here. I'm starting a ranch.
Wow.
I'm going to be a cowboy. And he did it, right? He just did it. Like, how mad is that, right? And I just have crazy respect for this guy. I'm like, holy cow, you were just like, you were just like a Muslim guy, right, in the Middle East, and just decided to come over to Canada and be a freaking cowboy and run in the federal election. Like, I mean, it's amazing, right? This is like, these are the great stories. These are the immigrants in our country. This is the sort of stuff that they do. So, I mean, to say that we're anti-immigration and things like that, and we're super racist, I'm just not buying it anymore.
No.
And there's so many issues. Like, I mean, if you want to, we can go into like the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. So, I mean, I don't know, that might be, we're kind of, actually we shouldn't, because you know what, we're at the end. We're like nearing the end here.
Can you believe how fast an hour goes by? Holy shit.
But this is another one of those groups that's received a lot of funding, millions and millions and millions. Hold on, let me try to find it.
Give it to me again. I'll search it on Twitter.
I wrote it down. It's the Canadian Race Relations Foundation.
You tweet about it at all?
You know what? In my old account, I had a huge thread, and then Nick Nanos blocked me. And it was too bad, because you know what? That thread, it was a shame it was erased. It had over 1 million views, and it was translated into 8 different languages. So it really, really resonated with people. So I talked about this phenomenon and how sort of race has been weaponized politically by pollsters, by these federally funded groups, things like that. And how they're using it to pit us against one another, right? As opposed to bringing us together. They're trying to tear us apart and to make things look worse than they are. And a lot of these things are based on our Statistics Canada, and they're based on hate statistics and things like that. You'll always see, these shocking headlines saying, hate crimes in Canada went up 20%. So this was the big thing. This was the big thing that happened. We talked about that
last time, I think, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, the problem is that, they changed the definition of what a hate crime is.
Yeah, well, there was no hate crimes before. There is no hate crime. Hate crime's a hoax.
There's
only crime.
There are hate crimes, right? There are hate crimes.
There's crime. There's no hate crimes. It's just crime. It doesn't matter. It's not a hate crime.
I consider
criminals are assholes. They're hateful. They hate lots of things. You can't have a hate crime. There is no hate crimes.
I think it's okay to give it its own. It's still a crime, but I think it's okay to give that sort of stuff its own category.
No, that's what's leading to this mess.
But
They're keeping stats on quote unquote hate crimes. There's no hate crime. It's just crime.
well, it just
I'll convert
problem
you
is
on this at some point.
they broaden the definition so much. So now it includes gender ideology,
Yeah,
um,
which is
and things
exactly
like
why
that.
there shouldn't.
And it also has been brought in to include things like property crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is really interesting. It's on this. It's on the Statistics Canada website. It doesn't matter what the race of the person you're committing the crime against was. So if there's a white person who's committing a crime on a white person, and they say a slur that could be perceived as a racial slur, then it's considered to be a hate crime against that minority group, even though that slur was directed at a white person.
Have you ever seen a hate crime against a white person? Have you ever seen one brought to any person? No, there's never
Well, I
been
mean,
one.
if you
which
look at
is
my
why
Twitter feed late at night on Saturdays, you might see a couple of hate crimes.
there
being
has
committed
never
against me.
been a white hate crime, a hate crime perpetrated on a white person. Because you know why? Because we don't care. You
Well, I
can't
mean,
say
I don't-
racist things about white people because we can't be insulted that way. Why? Because we're inferior? No, just because we don't care. And you know
Well,
what? Most of the minorities don't care either. They'd let all the racist tropes slide. It's the media and the politicians that fucking shine the spotlight on this and make people believe that crimes can be racist, that there can be hate crimes. There can be no hate crime because, and you're leading exactly to why. And I'm kind of learning as we go through this because, I've always felt this way, but because who decides who's hate? What is hate? What's it look like? What's it defined as? Like, I understand if I say, if a call to action in violence, I get that. That is that's illegal. You can't do that. But just letting loose and letting something fly, and I mean, comedians can't be. Well, there was a guy in Montreal that was arrested for his comedy bit, so I shouldn't say comedians. But for the most part, no, it depends. It completely depends on your skin color and your race and your ethnicity as to what's a hate crime, because there's never been a hate crime filed on behalf of a white person ever.
too Jewish, maybe.
Oh, okay. So now we're making Jews white. Okay, I'm
mean,
glad with
aren't
Jews
they-
being white. I want the Jews on my side because they're all the smart ones.
I don't know. Are they white? Yeah, I mean, there is.
think they're
I'm gonna have to disagree with you here, and that's okay. We can have different. I do think maybe that there should be a separate designation for hate crimes, but I think that the definition has been broadened so far. Like I said, property crimes, things like that. So if you're of a certain race or religion and somebody commits a property crime, they might not even know that you're that race or religion, but that could be classified as a hate crime, even though the perpetrator may have had no idea that you were Jewish or a Muslim, right? So that's sort of the issue, and this is why we're seeing our statistics spike, right? We've got this fluid changing goalposts, and so Statistics Canada themselves have put a disclaimer up saying that you have to be cautious how you use this data because of the way that the data has been collected and reported, and because the definitions that we're using. So, I mean, when Statistics Canada puts their own disclaimer up, you have to take it with a grain of salt, saying, are these actually accurate? So the last time I crunched numbers, it shows that, yeah, hate crimes, right, as reported, were increasing, but they were also increasing proportional to our population. So per capita, they were relatively stable. So we don't have a sort of hate crime epidemic. Do we have a problem? Sure, we're always going to have a problem. There's always going to be racist. There's always going to be discrimination. All that stuff is always going to exist, right? We can't eradicate it, right? But we can try to combat it and do better, right? We can try to understand each other, be kind to each other, not pit each other against each other based on race. I think that's very, very harmful. The way that the liberals do it, the way that the anti-hate network does it, I think that's counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. But relatively speaking, we're doing pretty good in Canada for what we've got. When you look at, our massive multi-ethnic population, I think that we're doing all right, you know? We can always do better, but I think that we're doing relatively good. And I think that we are understanding each other more. Like I said, when I see that one of my messages can be translated into 8 different languages, I mean, this is what the internet was supposed to be for. It was supposed to be a tool of understanding to overcome, information divides, right? Cultural divides, religious divides. So I'm like, well, this is actually happening, right? I see it happening live on my feed. Even one of my tweets I put out this morning has already been translated into 4 different languages. So I'm like, this is what the internet was supposed to be for, right? It was supposed to bring us together. It was supposed to let us understand each other better, right? To create a better place. And now we've got a government and all these crazy hate groups who want to censor it, right? Who say that people like me are bad, right? Because you're a Wexit, what are we doing? I'm trying to create a white ethno state, right? They're saying people like her are terrible people. Well, I just see the opposite happening, on my social media. I see all kinds of different people coming together and learning and understanding, right? And I've learned so much. I didn't know anything before. I knew nothing, right? And all these people from all over the world have taught me all this stuff that I know. Like, I didn't get here by myself, right? They helped me, they gave me information, they contributed to my research, right? They gave me support, they gave me encouragement, they brought me to where I am. People not just from in Canada, from all over the world, right? From Pakistan, from Iran, right? From Israel. I mean, that's the amazing thing about social media. That's the beauty of it. So when I say that our government wants to censor it, I get really, really, really angry.
Well, thank you for making my point. I don't think you realize that you agree with me. There should be no hate laws. There's just laws. There's no hate laws. Anyways, yeah. I really appreciate your time. I want to keep you on time. We're at 8:00. And thank you. Yeah. And I hope,
do it again. I've got lots of stuff.
I know you do.
And lots of ammo.
Yeah. I promise to be a little bit better at letting you go for longer periods of time. So next time you come on, we'll have a different topic. Good. Yeah, I like to interject because I think it's important. And to and from work.
You're the host.
I agree with that, but it's your show. When I have a guest on, less of me and more of my guest is better. I agree that some of my best content comes out when I have good guests, but I can do a monologue anytime I want. But it requires more work. You know what I mean? And you have to dig for my opinion when it filters out in an Eddie Lee conversation, where if I just do a Jim Fannin show for 2 hours, you'll get nothing but opinion, and I can timestamp it for you if you want. So there's time for that, but I appreciate the way you carry a conversation. I love what you're doing. I hope you shift a little bit and drop your pride and put up a link and start a crowdfund or what do you call it? What's the safe place? Give, Send, Go or whatever. It's time, Andy. You're worth it. You're worth it.
I'd like to get people, maybe they would just give me,
we need you on the ground.
$5 a year.
We can't afford to have you sitting at home when you should be in Washington. All right?
Well, it was a big opportunity, but to be honest, it would have been a really stressful one for me. They had quite a stellar lineup. I'm sure that you could imagine.
Dude, that stuff is nothing. Once you get on stage, the adrenaline just goes. You're fine. You're good. Stop making excuses. Yeah, you need to be there. So next one, whatever's coming up next, I hope we plan for it better. I say we in the figurative sense, but I'm glad to help you any way I can from here in beautiful Dominican Republic, where I checked the other day. I checked today, and there's 364 days left of summer. It's 88 and sunny every day, okay? Like, who would go through the torture of Canada when you only have 3 months of summer? And that's not a white supremacy signal, unless you want it to be. Meme this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I didn't have kids and wasn't divorced and wasn't tied here, I would have been out of this country.
Yeah.
As much as I love it, I would have, probably gone back, but I probably would have done something like, Marc Patrone does. I probably would have gone to Florida and fought from abroad for a little bit and had a bit of a break because, I'm just so appalled with this government. I'm disgusted with it. Every day there's something. There's websites being scrubbed, they're being edited, lies are being told. I mean, court documents are being backdated, we've got all this, all these networks that are being given federal funding to attack conservatives. It's just like it's the dirtiest politicking, right? I mean, everybody thought that Canadian politics were so boring until, like early 2022, right? And then the world sort of woke up and was like, what's going on with Canada, right? Like, what's happening down there? Is Canada okay? With the Freedom Convoy, the Emergencies Act, all of a sudden, people realize that our political scene it's really, really, it seems very, very mundane to a lot of people, I think, in comparison to American politics. It's not as exciting, but it sure has been exciting as of late, and it's getting more and more exciting. And Emergencies Act inquiry is coming up, so that's going to be really exciting. 9 days.
Well, when the link goes up, I can't wait to watch the left meltdown and go, I told you, she's a grifter, she's fundraising. Well, hey, yeah, she is. And look, she's making money, so fuck you.
Well, realistically speaking, I'm going to have to at some point, but I'll never make it. I'll probably make it optional. Like,
well, I think you'd be surprised by the support you get, because we want you there. We want you on the ground.
Oh no, I know.
We want
there's
you
tons,
to have the resources to dig up. Yeah. All right.
There's tons of support. There's no question about that. But yeah, anyways, if you guys want to support me for free, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's 100% free. We're getting up there. Once we get over 1,000, we'll start getting some ad revenue and things like that. So that helps. It just helps. Exactly. It's not like I hope to make a killing, but it would be nice to, be able to cover flights and things like that. Right.
Well, unless you're getting 1 million views a month on your YouTube channel, which translates to 1,000 roughly a month, you're not making money off YouTube. Maybe half your hydro bill.
You make something, right? At least it's something.
Well, yeah, you make $1,000 and 1 million views. And I'm right behind you. I just turned 901 today. I see you're at 964 or whatever. My channel is strictly Dominican Republic real estate and just beach walks and stupid things from DR. And in 4 months, I've been working on it, maybe 5. It's almost 1,000 subs. It's almost 4,000 watch hours. And it's my 8th channel. 8th. My big channel, my first channel, my 10-year-old channel was doing 1.5 million a month. And it was $1,500 a month. And that's significant. That's a decent income. Like, that's more than rent, where I'm living. Yeah. So, but you got to work really hard, and YouTube's time consuming and stuff like that. So, yeah. I
know. Well, I haven't worked on it, right? That's the problem.
It's not the problem, because you need someone, once you're funded, you can pay someone to do the dirty work, the $10 an hour work. You're not a $10 an hour employee. You're more valuable than that. Shit. I'm simping hard. I got to get out of here. Let me know. Let me know when the Patreon goes up or the Give Send Go or whatever. Yeah. I'm gonna break you of this. It's your humility and your pride. You gotta let it go. We need you in Washington, and we need you at every event from here till the end of time. And we need you to have the resources to go digging. You can't just do it on your own, right? Do you have a regular job, like a real job?
Not right now. Yeah, I was laid off during the pandemic.
Oh, there we
go. I'm just cruising. I'm just cruising on my savings right now. So
start a Give Send
Go. I am going to have to get a real day job.
You have a real job, and we're going to fund you until it rolls in by itself with the commercials and stuff like that. Because as an independent freelancer, what you're reporting on is not advertiser friendly. And you know what? There's a good chance. I don't know what your interviews look like, but I have a YouTube channel with 1.3 on it. It'll never be monetized, because when I applied for the partner program, they came back and said, no, this is harmful content. I've got 800 videos, and they wouldn't tell you which ones. So they can turn you down for any reason too. So you might have 4,000 watch hours and 1,200 subs 2 months from now and not be able to make $1 off it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I never tried to get into this to make money, or I thought it was going to be my industry. So I don't really know that much
now, and you need to provide for yourself.
All I do is I wake up every morning, I throw on a committee meeting, I start looking for reports, and I just sort of pick a trail and try to follow it through, right? And try to follow the funding. So that's what I do. So I'm not like a business savvy individual, right? And that's okay.
Here she is on Twitter. This is her link. The links are in the show description. This is the YouTube channel right here. 964 subs. Go give her a sub. This is her website. Again, link in the show description. And this is, well, some assorted tweets that we went through on the anti-Canadian, the anti-hate network. Andy Lee. Search her on Twitter. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. And I'm looking forward to having you back again soon. Thanks for your accessibility too, because, you know, I'm grateful to a lot of people that, I mean, I had Zuby on before he came, you know, now he goes on Joe Rogan. He's not going to do Jim Fannon's show. But back before he blew up, I had access to the guy. And John Kay still is making time next week. Bernier's always been cool with me. So I appreciate you risking coming on with, you know, somebody that's sometimes got a bad reputation for saying nasty things about people. Just look at my Twitter feed. I'm an asshole. What can I say? I come from a good place.
You probably go a little further than I would go, but that's okay. It's like I said, I'm free speech absolutist. So you're entitled to your opinions. I might not agree with all of them, but that's okay, right? That's what democracy is all about.
Well, somehow you've had an effect on me. I'm second guessing my stuff before I pull the trigger. I'm still pulling the trigger, but in the back of my head, I'm going, I bet you Andy Lee wouldn't tweet this. So you're rubbed off on me in some way. We don't know each other that well. I've only talked to you the one time, but it all goes along with being accessible, being open to a conversation. I was thinking before I came on the show today, it's so difficult to get the lefties to come on and discuss with you. Like I've been listening to Public Image Limited. Who's this song? It's a great track. I heard it on Spotify. It's on Devin Tracy's Atheism is Unstoppable's one of his playlists. State of the Union, Shut the Fuck Up, Public Enemy. Well, it's a pretty bumping tune. It sounds like an old school tune for Public Enemy. It sounds like they're still legit relevant. It's like a good smashing tune. It's all about Trump. 45 this, comb over that, orange this, and I'm like, State of the Union, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, wait a minute. 45 this, Gestapo, Nazi motherfucker. I'm like, you know, I didn't mind the song before I figured out what the words were about, and now I can't. Like, it came on again today, and I actually enjoyed it again today, but I can't get past the words because they're completely infected. I'm like, well, Joe Biden has said much worse things in front of Clarence Thomas. Dropped the N-bomb. I know it was a different time, but, you know, and they just hate this man so much, and I don't get it. And the left gets a break everywhere. So anyways, I'm rambling. It's the end of the show. Tell everyone we're also, I've told them all the links that I think what we need to do is just promote the Give So and Go next time. What are we talking about? Kids?
Yeah, we can talk about whatever you want. We can talk about kids. We can talk about
whatever you're hot on.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what I'm up to next time. And don't say give, send, go in the same sentence as me, because everybody thinks I stole the $10 million from the truckers. Okay. So they all think I'm living the high life off that $10 million. So that's a big rumor going around, right? Is that I made off the pot.
I see. Because you and Tamara were friendly.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, a lot of people thought that I got a slice of that pie. Yeah, I definitely didn't. So yeah, anyways, it was good to see you. Yeah, I'm gonna watch your episode next week with John Kay. That should be a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we'll do this again.
All right, cool. Talk soon.
Yeah, take care.
Ciao. That's how you do that. And the links are right up here. Let's see. Just one more time before we go. There we go. That's The Real Andy Lee Show on, I'll be nice and say Twitter, at Real Andy Lee Show. And Andy, you need to get the customized YouTube channel. Yep. You just go in there, customize, and change it to Real Andy Lee Show. So this up here says youtube.com/Real Andy Lee Show. Should be easy. It's they only default to the one name now. You can't actually pick your name anymore. Here's the website. AndyLeeVNA.com. Again, this is all in the show description below. Excuse me. And that's Indy Lee if you need her. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and I am out.